Eilidh McCrae arrived in the Highlands under a gray sky, the clouds hanging low and heavy. Rain misted the air, clinging to her coat, her hair, her eyelashes. Everything weighed down here, even the sparse light that managed to tear through the clouds. The ferry shuddered against the dock, and she stepped onto the island with a cautious breath. The wind carried the scent of salt, peat, and something older, something she couldn't name. At the terminal, an old woman offered her a tentative smile.
The storm's not done grieving.
The lady wrapped her shawl tighter.
The sea's mourning veil. Well, much better the storm than us.
Eilidh nodded politely, pretending to understand it.
I'm here for a wake. McCrae Manor, can you give me any directions?
The woman's face tightened. Her eyes flicked to the waves before settling on Eilidh's.
Your name, dear?
Eilidh McCrae.
The woman stiffened, as if the name struck a nerve. She made the sign of the cross. Her smile never returned. Eilidh blinked, unsure how to respond. Her mother's maiden name had never meant much to her, just a relic from a place left behind. Her mother seldom spoke of her youth on the island, only that her own father drowned when she was young, and that she had fled soon after. Kansas had been her mother's refuge, dry, flat, and far from the sea. It was where Eilidh had lived her entire life, until now. Ava never told her why she chose to move back to McCrae Manor. She had never invited her there either. Now Eilidh was there to bury her, and choose either to do the same with her new manor and her family's home. She made her way through the village, surprised by its size. Old stone cottages leaned into the wind like weary watchers. Shuttered windows stared blankly. Sheep grazed on sodden hills, their coats patchy and unkempt. At the harbor, a child coughed into a blood-spotted rag, while his mother clutched a rosary as if it might crack under pressure. No one else spoke to her. It was as if they could feel her name. The wake, she found out, would not be held at McCrae Manor. The villagers said the house was too far, too empty, too full of sea air. Instead, they gathered in the stone chapel perched beneath the cliffs, its roof bowed and bones older than any map. The salt spray reached the windows, leaving streaks like fingers dragged down glass. Eilidh stepped inside, boots echoing off the stone floor. The chapel smelled of damp wood and wilting lilies. A chill settled into her coat. Her mother's coffin lay at the altar, closed, narrow, and made of pale pine. It was warped slightly, sea-sodden and shrunken at the base. Someone had carved a cross into the lid, but the edges were rough, as if done in haste. No candles burned beside it. They said Ava McCrae drowned. Drowned after decades in landlocked Kansas. After years of avoiding water, even bathtubs filled too high. The villagers said she returned to the island months ago, sudden and silent, renting a boat to reach it alone. They said it with tired eyes, voices that barely carried, like they'd seen this before, like this was a story that repeated itself. Eilidh stood beside the casket, stiff. Grief didn't come easily, only questions. She remembered her mother once crying into a bottle of cheap whiskey, tears and words slurring into each other.
Daddy, where is your face?
Eilidh had been 13, too young to understand what the sea could do to a body. Her grandfather's corpse had taken 3 days to return to shore. The waters had not been kind. Fish and crabs had feasted, and what was left was bloated, peeling. The sea held her mother for a week. Eilidh was grateful they had closed the casket. She didn't want to see what the sea had taken, or what it had given back. A small group of mourners had gathered, most of them strangers. They kept their distance, whispering behind their sleeves. One young man stood apart, tall, dark-haired, his coat crisp and clean like he didn't belong. He held himself too straight, too stiff, like a man imitating grief. His gaze met hers once. Dark emeralds, darker than her mother's jade eyes, and then turned away. Beside him stood an older man, perhaps in his 60s. His salt and pepper beard was neatly trimmed, his skin weather-worn, wind-battered. He wore a long black coat that hung off his frame and held a flat cap in both hands, thumb brushing the brim over and over.
We're sorry for your loss, lass. Your mother was well-loved in her way. She came home after all. I'm sorry it's led to this.
He did not offer his name. The younger man gave her a small, polite nod before slipping an arm around the older one, helping him out through the chapel's heavy wooden doors. Eilidh watched them go. Their manners seemed too polite and cautious at the same time, as if they were waiting for something. After the wake, Eilidh was driven up the cliffs by a silent, weathered man hired by the solicitor. He didn't ask her name, didn't offer his. His eyes remained fixed on the road as the car climbed a narrow, winding path bordered by crumbling stone walls and gullies brimming with rain. The island fell away behind them, swallowed by mist. McCrae Manor revealed itself slowly, like an unearthed relic. It stood tall above the sea, a vast carcass of gray stone streaked black with lichen and age. The turrets were crooked, bent from centuries of salt wind. Ivy clung to the mortar like veins. The windows stared out with lifeless dark panes, blind eyes watching nothing. A tower rose from the center of the house, taller than the others. Upon it, an iron cross pierced the sky. Its rusted arms stretched into the storm clouds, defiant. A raven perched atop it, slick with rain, its feathers clumped. It croaked once, a broken sound that echoed against the cliffs as the car pulled up. "You sure you want to stay here?" the driver asked as he unloaded her bags.
I need to settle her affairs, see what's left.
She didn't mention the letter. Water-stained and warped, her mother's final words had arrived 3 days before the body. Scrawled across warped paper were fragmented lines.
It'll want me or you. Better me. You stay far, far away. It remembers.
She'd brought the letter with her. Folded, pocketed, unread a second time. The manor's front doors groaned open. The air inside was older than the walls. Colder, too. A fire burned in the hearth, but instead of rising, the smoke crawled along the ceiling in lazy bruises. The scent of damp ash and mildew stung her nose. Wallpaper curled at the edges like shedding skin. The floor creaked with each step, wood soft in places. Motes drifted in the air like dust caught in a memory. Family portraits lined the main hallway, each canvas yellowed, each frame tarnished. All those green eyes, hers too, she realized, stared out beneath arched brows and solemn mouths. One portrait dominated the far wall, a man in noble clothes, dark velvet and brass buttons, standing tall beside a roaring sea. His chin was high, his mouth cruel. A red sash crossed his chest. His eyes pierced even through centuries of paint. Eilidh McCrae, the plaque read. The first to settle. The foundation of House McCrae. She stared at him for a long time. His face was familiar in a way that unsettled her. Not that she had seen any of the paintings before, as far as she knew, but from somewhere deeper, somewhere closer to blood. Outside, the wind howled around the manor's shell. The raven cawed again, louder this time, as if calling down the night. Eilidh turned from the portrait. The floor groaned under her feet, and the house closed around her. The sun, ever shy behind the low clouds, gave way at last. Still, the same blurred barrier kept starlight from the village. Darkness clutched them tight, not a blanket, but a body bag. Eilidh took her baggage to the central tower bedroom, where the manor's lingering pride lingered in velvet drapes and high-backed chairs. This was where the house remembered it had once been something grand. The solicitor had explained everything, her mother's return, her final days. But Eilidh needed to feel it for herself, to stand where Ava had stood, to try, maybe foolishly, to understand. The bed had been left unattended ever since it was last used. The sheets were twisted in place, as if someone had wrestled with nightmares until morning. And then, the window, wide open. Beyond it, the black stone terrace, slick with rain. And past that, nothing but the cliffs, the drop, and the sea. This was where her mother had spent her final nights, where she had walked out. Eilidh crawled into the bed anyway. The pillow smelled faintly of lilac and mildew. She stared at the ceiling, blinking against the dark. She hadn't cried at the chapel. Not when the coffin was lowered. Not when the villagers whispered. But now she wept. Quietly, bitterly, until sleep took her. No calls woke her. Only the wind, howling like grief-given voice. The waves roared, closer now, louder than they should be. She sat up slowly, her limbs sluggish with sleep, and glanced toward the window, the same window she had closed. It was open again. And there, at the far edge of the terrace, stood Eilidh McCrae. She wore white, or what looked like a dress. The fabric clung to her shape in strange, bent ways. Eilidh's breath hitched as the wind shifted. Eilidh couldn't move. Not from fear. Not yet. It wasn't until she slid from the bed, not onto wood, but onto a floor soaked through, that panic settled in her throat. She reached for the dresser, the sheets, anything, but her hands found no help. She slid through the window and onto cold stone and the sharp edges of broken tiles. She cut her palms, scrambling backwards. She was being pulled, slowly, invisibly, toward the terrace's edge. Ava didn't walk. She drifted, impossibly still, as if the wind parted around her. Closer, she could see. The woman wore no dress. Her mother's skin fluttered in the wind like cloth, tattered and translucent, barely holding onto bone. Her arm lifted, beckoning. They appeared. McCraes. Dozens of them, dressed in the fashions of centuries. Eyes hollow, faces slack. They lined the terrace like mourners, watching her pass. But they did not touch her. They parted, stepping aside so she could pass through. And outside, above the Black Sea, lightning split the sky. A devil rose from the surf. It rode a monstrous horse with eyes like hellish fire. Its skeletal head steamed under the rain. A flayed man-beast whose very existence meant agony. For those who looked upon it, and above all, for those it set its gaze upon. The rider held a jagged spear in one hand, aimed straight at Eilidh's chest. The steed neighed. The horseman let out a battle cry. She reached the edge and her feet slipped into the drop. Eilidh tried to scream. It came out as a gargle, like lungs filled with brine. Eilidh woke, choking. The fire was out. The cold pressed in from every wall. Her sheets were soaked, and when she touched her face, her fingers came away slick with salt. Through the locked window, thunder rolled in from the sea. Thank you for venturing into obscura scrolls. Don't forget to like and subscribe so YouTube knows you're one of us. May we meet again in similar nights. Stay vigilant. Stay safe.